What up, reader fam? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing swell and reading lots of good books. Today I'm bringing you another video in my Books I've Read Not So Recently series, the series here on my channel where I share with you some books that I read months ago because I can't keep up with monthly TBR. Not TBRs, wrap-ups. I've got 5 books to talk about today. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I don't have much to say about these books that I'm gonna be talking about today, but that's alright, that's okay, I'm gonna talk about them anyway. So without further ado, let's talk books. First up here, I read Warcross. Warcross takes place in a world where there is this hip, hoppin', poppin' virtual reality game called Warcross. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom. The game has become a really big thing in this world and everybody is into it, either being a viewer of the game or a player within the game. We follow Imika, who is working as a bounty hunter, tracking down people who are betting on the game illegally. Insert Bet on It by Troy Bolton here. Imika ends up making a risky move during one of the tournaments by attempting a hack that could get her some quick cash, cha-ching, cha-ching, but it ends up launching her into the action of the tournament for all to see, which, you know, could get her into some trouble. At first she's like, dang, I'm getting arrested, it's going down. But then the CEO of the game contacts her and is like, hey, I want you to work for me. He offers her a job to uncover this fishy situation within the game, and she can't refuse. But working with the CEO means learning more secrets about the game, including secrets that could change her view of Warcross and have her questioning its morals. Uh-oh. The world building in this was immaculate. The taste, the flavor, the scent, the smell, the gloriousness. She built up that world brick by brick and I loved it. Marie Lu's writing style is almost cinematic. Like, you read the book and it just like exports into a movie in your mind. It is trippy. It's trippy how it works, trippity trip, but I love it. I love the fact that you can just so easily visualize everything that's happening and it really does just kind of play out like a movie in your head. I enjoyed the full cast of characters, but specifically I loved our main character, Imika. She was a solid main character to follow. I just loved how layered of a character she was. We get to see so much of her past and learn about past relationships that she's had, like the relationship that she has with her father, and we get to know so much about her past and all the things that she's been through, and she just was shaped out so well. And I feel like you really only begin to kind of touch the surface with her character in the first book. There's so many layers to be pulled back, and I can't wait to do that with book 2. The CEO was also a really interesting and fascinating character to follow because of all the complications that he brings to the table. It was kind of like, bruh, I like your character, but you're also sus. While I did mostly enjoy the plot, it also kind of fell flat a little bit for me, just in how things were so predictable from the start. And it's a book that has a lot of setup to where there could be all these big shocking moments, but there's really no shocking moments. Not that it needs shocking moments to be a great book, but it's a book that like lends itself to have all these big, massive, shocking, shook-worthy moments, and it has zero. You'd think maybe she's building it up to go into a different direction, but she goes in the direction that you expect her to go in, if that makes any sense. Nothing within the story was very surprising because of how everything was revealed. I did end up enjoying this one, and I'm excited to get to the second one, but overall, this wasn't my favorite plot-wise. Next up, I read The Thing About Luck. This is a middle grade story that follows our main character, Summer, who is facing a season without any luck, and it's rough. Hashtag rough times. After an emergency leads her parents running off to Japan, Summer and her little brother are left to stay with their grandparents, who aren't the easiest to stay with. And that's because of the high standards that they put on the kids, not really allowing them to have any downtime and all the work that they make them do throughout the wheat harvesting season. So we follow Summer, who does what she can with what she has in order for her to find her way out of rough waters and into a soft landing spot. If I were her, I would have been on my knees begging and crying my parents to take me with them to Japan. Don't leave me here. All my luck is in Japan. This was a wholesome and chill little slice of life story, and while it wasn't necessarily like the biggest standout book for me, I still got mad respect for this book because I feel like you will not find another book like this within the middle grade category. And for that, I give it a big ol' salute. It's definitely got an original setting and an original plot, and it's got my respect for not being like all the other book girls. I would say that this book is pretty weak in terms of the plot, but its strength shines in both the themes and the characters. Those were the strong points of this book. The themes like luck and what does it even mean to be lucky, and also a focus on family and all the complicated relationships that come with that. The characters themselves are well shaped out and breathe life into the story that would otherwise be very boring without them. It's one of those books that gives me major small town vibes. How the smallest of events can feel like the biggest of events within a small town, because not a lot happens in small towns. If you live in a small town, you know what I'm talking about. While I personally really liked this one and found a lot of value in the story, I would be hesitant in recommending it just because I feel like the audience for this story would be rather small, and I feel like you have to kind of know what you're getting with it before going into it, and I don't want to recommend it and then have people be like, yo, that sucked. But I did really enjoy it, and it made me want to pick up more by this author. I've actually read another book by them, and that is this book right here called Half a World Away, so looking forward to getting into this author more in the future. Next I read Not So Pure and Simple. This story follows our main character Dell, who ends up finding himself joining a purity pledge at his local church after following his crush's lead. You know you're dedicated to your crush when you get involved in things that you have no interest in otherwise. Together he works with another pledger in hopes of getting closer to his crush, but in order to do that he's got to get this pledger information from his sex education class. Quite the trade-off there. It's a comedic story but also has a bit of an informative edge to it. This story was messy, M-E-S-S-Y. I don't mean that in a bad way, and I don't mean that about the quality of the book, because the writing, top-notch. The characterization, top-notch. The plot, toppity top notch. But I mean messy in how everything plays out within the plot. To be fair, I honestly did not know what I was going into when getting into this book, but it was delightful in every way. It really explores sex education and how it kind of fails to educate and inform people, and also how there are people who are trying to set barriers so their kids can't be educated about it, which is just capital D-U-M-B. Why do I keep spelling things out? We're not at a spelling bee right now, but hey, if we were, I'd pass. You want your kids to be safe, and yet you don't want to teach them how to be safe. Make it make sense. You can't. The audacity within me has hit its limit. It also breaks down toxic masculinity, which y'all know how I feel about that. I vibe with that topic. I myself am working on actively breaking that down on the daily. Screw you, toxic masculinity. And we need more books about it, so it was nice to have that topic be explored throughout this book. I feel like that actually might be why a lot of people end up struggling with this book, because through the breaking down process, as our main character is kind of seeing this toxic masculinity within himself and breaking it down, it's annoying to watch. Our main character is breaking down these ideals that he was taught at a young age, and you've just got to be willing to fight the fight with him and know that he's going to eventually evolve throughout the story and knock out toxic masculinity and bury it in the ground. Rest in peace, except not. Rest in distress. It's very much so a story where our main character is like, but I'm a nice guy, there's no way I can be bad. And having him realize throughout the story that nice don't mean squat. The plot was overflowing with chaotic energy in terms of the drama it delivers, and it's got so many great laughable moments throughout it. A solid contemporary story for sure. Next I read The Lost Book of the White, which is book 2 in the Eldest Curses series. It follows the iconic Magnus Bane and Alec Lightwood. I can't say too much in regards to the description as it is a sequel, but we follow an adventure that takes place in Shanghai after an important artifact is taken from Alec and Magnus's apartment. And as it goes in every Cassandra Clare book ever, it's a chaotic mess full of familiar shadow hunters that will have you both laughing and have you feeling like you're dangling off the side of a cliff with an adrenaline rush. I enjoyed this for the most part, but I don't feel like these books will ever compare to the main Shadowhunter Chronicle books for me. I feel like a lot of people will enjoy this one for the familiar faces you see that you didn't see in the first one. Like, it's got Jace, Clary, Isabel, and Simon. But personally, when I saw them pop up, I was like, wait, hold up a second. Y'all can't let Alec and Magnus have their own book? Like, let them shine. And at the same time, it felt weird having those other characters that we do see throughout the Shadowhunter Chronicles and not really hearing from their perspective, only hearing from Magnus and Alec and having them just be side characters. It was kind of weird, kind of throwing me off a bit. Something I enjoyed about this book though was just seeing how secure the Malik relationship has become. If you've read the Shadowhunter Chronicles at all, you know that Magnus and Alec have been through it. Oh yes, they have. They've had an up and down, teeter-totter of a relationship. And it was just nice to see some security in their bond and less drama. They're saving that drama for their mamas. Lastly, I love that this book took place in Shanghai because I felt like it was such a nice change in scenery from what we've seen in past books. I love learning about the institute there, and I would love to see a series set solely in Shanghai, but I doubt that we would ever get that. I just wanted to put that on the table. Wouldn't mind seeing that. Some Shanghai Shadowhunters, I'd be here for it. Would love to see it, but not getting my hopes up, keeping my hopes down. And lastly, I I read 4 volumes in the MONSTRESS series, which now that I think about it, I said at the beginning of this video I only read 5 books not so recently, but this is technically 8? Yep, 8. Oh well, anyways, I read MONSTRESS Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 4. The cover artwork is quite literally everything. So listen, this series was honestly hard for me to kind of wrap my mind around throughout the reading process because it had my brain working overtime trying to process everything that was going down in it. All that to say, it's going to be a strug bug for me to explain it to you, but I'm gonna do my best here. We follow Mika Halfwolf, who lives in a fantasy-esque world, and it's divided by the humans and the Arcanics. The Arcanics have like animal, magical blood running through them, and the Arcanics and the humans are at war with each other, and there's just a lot of tension there. The Arcanics are often captured and tested on, and Mika is an Arcanic who has been through just that. But her story is a bit grander than that, and that's because of the fact that she's got a freaking monster living inside of her, living rent-free. The only rent it's paying is pain and destruction. Mika must look into the past to figure out what her next move in life is amongst all the madness that's going on with the Arcanics versus the humans. That's the best I could do. Hopefully that kind of gives you an idea as to what you can get with this. I have such mixed feelings on how I feel about this series, but I'm also not confident in my opinion because I know that I'm going to have to give it a reread before I can solidify how I feel about it. Have you guys ever read a book like that where you're in the middle of it and you're like, you know what, I'm probably gonna have to reread this before I fully know how I feel about it. But my current thoughts on this series is that it's a bit of a mess, a fun and adventurous chaotic mess, but a mess nonetheless. I would argue that it just has too much going on, and this is coming from somebody who loves having a lot of story threads running through a story, but I think it kind of lacks on honing in on one storyline and kind of jumps around way too much. It goes hippity hoppity, hip hip hoppity, from storyline to storyline, from character to character. Things just kind of end up getting jumbled, and honestly, it's really hard for me to remember things that are happening, and you're just kind of thrust into the world and expected to pick up things and not be spoon-fed every little bit of the world, which I'm okay with normally, but I felt like I needed a little bit more grounding and a little bit more understanding as to how the world itself worked before going into it, which is why I feel like I really have to give it a reread, because I feel like part of my frustration with it is just not fully understanding how everything works, not fully understanding all the terminology throughout it, and just feeling overall lost with the world and the plot. But there are things that I like about it. The artwork is spectacular. Like, look at these spreads. They're so freaking good. They're so detailed and magical and wonderful and just so good. The amount of work that is put into making sure that every piece is super detailed really shows, and I was thoroughly impressed with every page flip. And even though I was kind of harping on the world and me still not understanding it, I still really like the world, and I feel like it has a lot of potential, which is why I feel so mixed about it, because while I don't fully understand it yet, I still think it's super fascinating and I want to be grounded in it, but that's where I'm struggling. And Kippa is a new all-time favorite character of mine and deserves to be protected at all costs, and I swear if she gets killed, I'm yeeting this series out of my life. That might be an over-exaggeration, but she's this little fox girl, and she's so pure and loyal, and we stand! Yeah, we do! Alright guys, those are 5 books, technically 8 books that I've read not so recently. You guys should let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books and what your thoughts are on them, or if you haven't read any of these books, then let me know down below in the comments some books that you have read recently and what your thoughts are on them, and if you recommend them. I'm always open to recommendations, and I also just always love hearing from you guys, so be sure to let me know down below in the comments all your thoughts. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye, yo!